Hello, Chiefs Kingdom, and welcome to the season finale of Kingdom Corner. I'm going to sum it up this season. Welcome back to RGR Football, of course. If you're a subscriber, welcome back. If you're not, click the subscribe button and go ahead and hit that notification bell to make sure you get all of our future broadcasts and postings so you can hear what content we're talking about. I'm not going to linger on the Super Bowl. I'm disgusted. I'm disappointed. I'm frustrated. I'm a little flag here. Run it back. Apparently, we put the Chiefs logo on there to let them know who we wanted to run it back. Forgot to write win it. Run it back and win it on there. So run it back. We did. Win it. Anyway, I digress. What I want to talk about today is we're coming up with free agency. We have players that are going to be leaving. We have players that are going to be staying. There's going to be a lot more change this year than there was last year. I guarantee you that. I don't presume to know who it's going to be that's going to come and go, but I'm going to give you a little idea of what I feel like is going on in the first place. I'm going to go read it right off of Over the Cap to give you my ideas player by player where we're at. First of all, we're 22 million and change over the cap as it stands right now, the projected cap. So that's a problem right there in and of itself. So we haven't got players to replace anybody. We have players we need to get rid of. We have unsigned free agents, and we're 22 million in the hole. So none of that works. Frank Clark, Patrick Mahomes, Chris Jones, Tyrann Mathieu. Well, no, that's with an adjustment. Frank Clark, Patrick Mahomes, and Chris Jones all pretty much untouchable. They're all over. They're all in the negative. So adjusting their contracts isn't going to help the Chiefs. That said, Tyrann Mathieu, Tyreek Hill, Eric Fisher, Travis Kelce, and Mitchell Schwartz, two of whom are all injured, Schwartz and Fish, could all adjust, extend their contracts, and we could go from 22 over to 8 to 10 million under the cap with just those few adjustments. Throw in Tyreek Hill, maybe we get to 12 or 15. There are a number of players that are going to have to do some adjustments. We're going to be saying goodbye to some players. Simply cutting Tyrann Mathieu, Eric Fisher, and Mitchell Schwartz would give us $8 million under the cap. It's not happening. Those guys, that's not going to happen. That's three leaders right there. You're going to get rid of them. I don't see it happening. Even with the injuries that are going on, it's hard to tell what's going to happen with Fish, and especially Fish because his Achilles is right at the end of the season. But also Mitchell Schwartz back. We have no idea where it was at the end of the season. We don't have any idea how bad it is. We'd like to get Kelechi Osemele back, but both knees, I don't know where that's at. We saw him on the practice field in a jersey and helmet. Did that mean anything? Was it just him standing around? Who knows where they're at with that? I expect Laurent Duvernay-Tardif to come back, so we're going to be solid at one of our guard positions for sure. Center, we'll get into that in a second. Let's go down the list here. We already covered Anthony Hitchens. LDT, I expect back. Harrison Butker will be back. Damian Williams said I believe he wants to come back, and I would definitely welcome him. Clyde Edwards-Helaire, obviously. Derek Notty's coming on great. I've heard a few people talk about Alex Okafor not being part of the team next year. That makes no sense. It would be $2 million in dead money to cut him. It costs just his salary to keep him, which is $2 million. So we're paying it either way. Why would you cut a guy when he's shown some production? He's not the answer at the edge, but I do see them finishing out the contract with him this year. Chad Henne, again. Chad Henne is one of those ones where it would save $1.25 to cut him, but you're still spending $375,000 to get rid of him, and I think Andy likes him. I don't know if that's going to happen. I think he's going to stick around. Mecole Hardman's not worth cutting. He's going to stay, and he's a contributor. As much as he made some mistakes in the Super Bowl, it was frustrating. He's a young guy. He's very explosive. He's a good weapon. He's not going anywhere. Juan Thornhill, Willie Gay Jr., going to stick around. Dorian O'Daniel, he's another one. It saves $1 million to cut him almost, but it's only $190,000. It's $190,000 in dead money. On top of that, he's not that expensive to keep. He's a strong contributor on special teams, and once in a while he comes in and plays a few downs at linebacker. If he's willing to stay for that, I believe they keep him for his last year. Colin Saunders is a team favorite. It's a wash to cut him. It's not worth it. James Winchester not going anywhere, long snapper. Armani Watts could save almost $1 million. I wouldn't be surprised if he's cut. I just see him make more bad plays than good, and he's barely used. I don't think he's a special team standout by any stretch. But we'll see. We'll see what happens. L'Jarius Sneed, obviously, budget contract, not going anywhere. Going to be a future, possibly current starter going into this season. Great corner, great pickup late in the draft. And then you get into a bunch of guys where they're minimal contracts, they're future offers, they're not going anywhere. Just a bunch of guys, including one of which is Nick Allegretti, who's a very reasonable contract and likely will be starting for us at left guard next season. Bo Pete Keys is in there. You see Durant's in that pile. Tershawn Wharton's in that pile. There's a lot of guys we're getting back for reasonable contracts. Tim Moore, who looked good in the final game against the Chargers, he's going to be back. These guys are all one-year guys. We'll see what happens. Let's get into free agency really quick. I don't want this video to be more than 9 minutes. We're already in minute 6. The free agency window. Okay, free agency window. Sammy Watkins. He just paid him $9 million. He was not there down the stretch. He was ineffective in the Super Bowl. I don't see him coming back, even on a team-friendly deal. There's just not the money to be there. My spirit animal, Daniel Sorensen. I love him. He's getting older. There's a lot of really good safeties in the draft that could be had in the 4th and 5th round. I feel like Dan's going to be moving on, whether it's retirement or moving on to another team. He's 31, going on 30. He'll be 32 this season. It's hard to say. I'd love to see Dan back, but not for $4 million. That's not going to happen. Bashan Breeland, I think, is getting long in the tooth. A lot of guys still love him. He's only 29, but he looked like he lost a step, and it looked like it hurt us. He started to look like Chiefs era Darrelle Revis, and that was a little bit troubling for me. I wouldn't be surprised if he's gone. Well, now this page says Alex Okafor is a free agent, pending free agent. So I guess they voided a year. So we'll see. We'll see what happens with Alex. If it's not going to cost the team anything, I wouldn't be surprised if he's cut. Damian Wilson, I'd like to see back. Damian Wilson was around $2.5 million, and he was very effective. He was making some plays in the Super Bowl, and I think he deserves another year as long as the contract's reasonable. Demarcus Robinson, farewell, sir. Enough drops for my taste. Austin Reeder, not an impressive center. Played a lot of reps. Not worth bringing back as far as I'm concerned, but Andy and the brass seem to like him. He is 30. He's not young by any stretch. He's not old, but he's not an old man in general terms, but he's 30 years old. So I could see them, especially if they draft somebody like Josh Myers out of Ohio State. Austin Reeder, we're going to be bidding farewell to. Mike Remmers, who knows if they take a veteran flyer on him. He's under $1 million to keep, or around $1 million to keep because of the veteran minimum. Anthony Sherman said he wants to be back. Anthony Sherman isn't used a lot. Anthony Sherman's a great leader on this team. And when he gets out there, he makes plays. So I definitely would like to see him come back. We already spoke about Kelechi Osemele. If it's team friendly, absolutely. And if he's healthy, absolutely love to see him back. Tom Passanio, I think we've seen his ceiling, and I think he's going to be looking for more money somewhere else, and that's going to be farewell to Tano. There is a character named Joshua Cano out of Florida State. I suggest you take a look at him. I'll be going over him in the future in my draft choices and things like that. But he's a very similar style player, but I think he's better now at his last year in Florida State than Tano is ever going to be. 6'8", same kind of long levers, but just much more explosive. Daniel Kilgore, getting old. We'll see what happens. Wisniewski, same thing. Mike Pennell's gone. Going to go get more money. Antonio Hamilton, done. There's a bunch of guys. Ricky Seals-Jones, Andrew Wiley. We'll see what happens. Andrew's young enough. It depends on how much money he wants. They like Andrew. I don't think he was all world anything in the Super Bowl. He was nothing more than a backup. He should have been a backup. Starting at right tackle, just not effective. Obviously against that rush. The one guy I want to touch on before I go, there's a bunch of other guys. They're smaller contracts. Ward, I don't think he's going to be back. Charvarius Ward, unless he comes back on a super team-friendly contract. And he's only 25, so he's probably not going to do that. Byron Pringle, I'd love to see him come back on a team-friendly deal. We'll see. Byron deserves more money. Byron's a good player. If he can get it somewhere else, I wouldn't be surprised if he can. And I'd like to see him take it, but I'd also love to see him back on a team-friendly deal. He's a great player for us. Le'Veon Bell. Le'Veon Bell is the last thing I want to touch on. Very frustrating for me to see the situation we were in. The wisdom of Brett Veach to bring Le'Veon Bell into the team. The game he had, his best game of the season, was against the Bucks at their field in the regular season. He was effective in the pass game. He was effective in the run game. The run game was effective in the Super Bowl. Our running back, Clyde Edwards-Helaire, had 7.1 yards per carry on 9 carries. He had 11.5 yards per touch in receiving on 2 catches. Le'Veon Bell could have done a very similar job, I think. We should have given both of them a lot of opportunities in the second half. We didn't do that. We had bad time clock management at the end of the first half. That was a shot in the foot. If I was Le'Veon Bell, they didn't dress Darwin Thompson for the Super Bowl. They healthily scratched Darwin Thompson so that they could dress Darrell Williams, Le'Veon Bell, and of course Clyde. And the only 2 players who dressed for the Super Bowl that didn't see a snap were Chad Henne and Le'Veon Bell. If I'm Le'Veon Bell, thanks for the invite, but I'm out. I wouldn't want to be there. I wouldn't blame them, especially if Damian Williams comes back. They're going to keep Damian. But if I'm Lev Bell, I want to go somewhere else, because it must have been a frustrating situation to finally get to a Super Bowl and stand there with your hands in your pants, your hands in your pockets, whatever hands in your shirt sleeves. I don't know what they have to put their hands in, but frustrated on the sideline he must have been, and I was frustrated watching him not get used and watching us abandon the run and get beat up by a team we should have owned. That's it for me. Like I said, click those buttons. I'll be back later in the week on Friday. We're going to do a thing called Chiefs Concerns. We're going to call it Chiefs Concerns, and I'm going to touch on draft picks and things like that. While you're waiting for me to talk to you about that later in the week, check out Zavin Collins. That's my player for the future look. Take a look at him, and we'll be back to talk about him later this week. Go Chiefs.
Thanks for watching this video from the team at RGR Football. Click these videos to see more and subscribe to RGR Football.